am Beau Beach coming to you on this absolutely freezing morning in our otherwise beautiful city. This is the Free Speech Podcast presented by Beechwood Commercial Real Estate Brokerage, your commercial real estate brokerage for sellers in Nashville and the Southeast. Hint, that is also my company. If you've got any interest in listing and selling your commercial property in 2025, please reach out and contact us. We will walk you through exactly what that process will look like, answer all of your questions, make clear all of the pitfalls that one must overcome in that process, and otherwise provide you with everything you need to make an educated decision. Now, let's get into our top 10 stories of the week. As always, I'm going to walk you through each of those stories and then we'll get into it. First on the list, a Nashville hotel demand update. Hint, things are going very well for us in Nashville. Next, the biggest bowling operator pivots away from bowling. We've talked in shows past about Bowleroo. They've just pivoted their entire business. I'm going to tell you that story. Next, a Nashville economy update. Hint, we are doing very well. Next, Container Store, another brand that we've introduced you to over the past few weeks. The Container Store and Beyond deal is now in jeopardy. A few weeks ago, I walked you through exactly what that Beyond deal looked like, structured in a very unique way. All of a sudden, that deal is now in jeopardy. Next, a Dolly Parton hotel update. Very high-profile hotel, very interesting use. Purchased a former Class A office building in the process of a $45 million gut renovation. I'll tell you what they've got planned there. What makes that a little bit more interesting is there are going to be a number of spaces open to the public. So it's not just hotel rooms. There's a lot going on there. I'll walk you through that. Next, Party Fowl, a hot chicken joint, right? Used to be one in Cool Springs, recently closed. That business has fallen on hard times and now it's been sold. I'll tell you who bought it and why. Next, Jersey Mike's subs to be sold. This is an interesting story. We're going to compare and contrast the price paid for Jersey Mike's subs and the number of locations they have, and we're going to compare them to Subway and what they recently sold for in their number of locations. I think it'll put in perspective for you how difficult a business Subway finds itself in. Next, a Nashville housing market update, right? So I'm not in the housing business. Nevertheless, I think it's useful when we're talking about getting an update on the Nashville economy. What is the housing market doing? And I'll tell you that story. From Florida, a very interesting project. A Florida condo builds solar into the windows. So they're powering the condo building with solar electricity that is harnessed from the sun using the exterior windows. I, for one, had never heard of that concept, so I'm going to share that with you. And last, Walgreens may sell itself to a private firm. I'm always interested in Walgreens because that's the brand that was really positioned as the blue chip retailer, the retailer that everyone thought would be in existence forever. They'd always make their lease payments. They'd always renew their lease. That was kind of an indestructible business, the pharmacy business. And Walgreens was the best available option in the pharmacy business. That is no longer the case. It turns out Walgreens is not a blue chip operator. Walgreens is not going to roll over all of their leases. Walgreens is actually in trouble and is soon to be saved by a private equity firm. I'm going to tell you that business story. So those are our 10 stories of the week, a healthy blend of Nashville and what we're seeing nationally from a number of large businesses that you recognize. All are very interesting stories. Most are pretty short. So let's get into it. Nashville hotel demand update. Nashville leads the country in hotel demand. No city comes close to Nashville when it comes to the hotel industry. Since the pandemic, Nashville's transient demand, which means individuals who are reserving rooms for one or just a few nights, has increased by more than 30%. So that's going to be kind of your weekend warrior, right? That growth is far beyond any other major city in the country, far beyond. Tampa came next with just over 10% growth, followed by Las Vegas and Miami. So 30% growth for Nashville. The next closest city, Tampa, at just 10% growth. So Nashville is absolutely killing it in the hotel space. That wasn't the only ranking Nashville ruled. Nashville's group hotel demand, this would be like conferences, right? Topped the list, seeing over 10% growth since the pandemic, followed by Dallas and Oahu Island, Hawaii. So we're leading in transient demand and group demand so far. Nashville is also on a building boom for hotel rooms. Nashville has added around 20,000 new hotel rooms in the last decade. The city ranks second for expected supply growth at 6.3% out of the top 25 markets, following just behind New York City. Nashville continues to have a lot of things going for it. You have a very accessible airport that keeps adding flights. You are very much a drive to multiple destinations for a couple of states around us. It's accessibility. That's interesting. I don't think of flying into Nashville, staying at a hotel just so you can travel somewhere else, but perhaps that's true. Another perk is the wide variety of price points. Of course, downtown, everybody talks about, oh wow, rates are so high. But if you just go a little bit further out, there are other accommodation choices and options that allow different customers of different income levels to come. So rather than accessibility, this makes more sense to me, right? You've got price points that people can't afford, right? My wife and daughter was recently planning to go to New York City for a dance-related convention. I shot it down. I hate the idea of sending my wife and young daughter to New York City without me, without any protection. It's an area that's really on a downward trend. It's very unsafe. And I recently read it has never been more expensive to travel to New York City. So New York City is in a terrible place, right? Whereby people feel unsafe. They feel unsafe on the streets. They feel unsafe on the subway. And it's still more expensive than it's ever been. So I think that speaks to some of the demand for Nashville. We've got a safe location and we've got a low-cost location to travel to. But last but not least, I would say this is the major driver of demand, the Music City brand. The brand of the market is just spectacular. That branding continues to be very, very strong, and you add on top of that lots of events. All those things combined make our market, which has done very well, especially after the pandemic. So Nashville hotel demand leading the country because of accessibility, price points, and the Music City brand. So let's go Nashville, keep it going. Next, we're going to keep moving here. The biggest bowling operator in the country pivots away from bowling. In previous weeks we've talked about how bowling alleys are disappearing, and the ones that are remaining are getting gobbled up by these big operators. The biggest operator known as Bowlaroo. After Bowlaroo bought the Lucky Strike brand last year, its chief executive saw no more big bowling chains to acquire. Now he wants to make Bowlaroo bigger than bowling with a new name and a new strategy. It is now formally rebranding to Lucky Strike Entertainment. So Bowlaroo becomes Lucky Strike Entertainment. Excuse me, it's early here. I'm not fully caffeinated. I'm freezing. So bear with me here. I'll get better as we go. Adopting a moniker that he says gets away from the very bowling-centric Bowlaroo handle as it expands into family entertainment centers and water parks. More than 75 Bowlaroo centers around the country will become Lucky Strike locations over the next 2 years. With the name change, Bowlaroo is staking its claim in the market for so-called location-based entertainment, a wide-ranging category that includes theme parks, arcades, and escape rooms. He says the total addressable market for location-based entertainment, which he pegs at about $100 billion in the U.S., is roughly 25 times bigger than the bowling market that Bowlaroo already dominates. So they're targeting a market 25 times bigger than bowling. Bowlaroo also owns the AMF and Bowlmore Lanes chains. It also acquired what used to be Brunswick Bowling and Billiards. Bowlaroo turned heads in May when it acquired the Raging Waves Water Park in Illinois, spurring a stock sell-off. The push into water and amusement parks is just beginning. Bowlaroo reported that last month that it had acquired Boomers Parks, a chain of indoor and outdoor family entertainment centers in California and Florida. The chief executive sees a future where Lucky Strike customers can buy a single pass that gets them into a water park when it's sunny and a bowling alley when it's raining. So, Bowlaroo, one of the only real successful larger operators of bowling alleys, is pivoting away from bowling alleys. I don't know if that bodes well for the long-term success of bowling. You know, I like to take my kids bowling once in a while. I grew up in a small town, but we had a bowling alley, and it was always special to go there. I bowled in high school PE class. I remember I even took a bowling class in college. Believe it or not, I was a good student. It was one of the only classes I did not get an A in. So somehow I did not get an A in bowling, which I will always remember. I don't remember any of my other grades from back then, but I do remember I did not ace bowling. And that is pretty pathetic. Let's keep moving. Nashville economy update, right? So I'm trying to give you some broad updates on where we're doing as, how we're doing as a metropolitan area. Nashville's economy has done extremely well, especially in terms of job growth. Going back to the early days and months of the pandemic, Nashville's economy was in line with the national economy. Both lost jobs in those early months, but in terms of recovery, Nashville's economy has far outstripped the national trend. Nashville lost over 140,000 jobs during the pandemic, but has since gained that back and more, adding an additional 110,000 jobs. And while Nashville's booming economy and its ability to attract new workers can be attributed to multiple factors like the availability of jobs, cost of living, educational opportunities, tourism, and travel, it mostly comes down to Nashville having a well-balanced economy. Nashville's unemployment rate was 2.6% compared to the national rate of 4.1%. There aren't too many places across the country that have unemployment rates as low as Nashville. So 2 for 2. Nashville hotel demand update, we're winning. Nashville economy update, we're winning. We'll have a few more Nashville updates for you as we go along. The Container Store and their Beyond deal is in jeopardy. So we talked about this a few weeks ago. Beyond is the parent company for the brand Bed Bath & Beyond and some other brands. But they were planning to inject $40 million investment, a very creative investment in the Container Store. The Container Store would then also be selling Bed Bath & Beyond products. So the Container Store is really motivated to get that money, right? They're burning through cash. They need the $40 million to stay alive. In exchange for the $40 million, there would be kind of a partnership between the Container Store and Beyond, a very interesting concept. but it's all falling apart. The Container Store could see its business upend if it is unable to secure additional funds by January 31st, also known as my birthday and also known as the coldest day of the year. And if you know me, I do not like the cold, so it was, a pretty awful thing of my parents to do to birth me on the coldest day of the year. If they don't get those funds by January 31st, their $40 million investment from the parent of Bed Bath & Beyond is put into jeopardy. The organizational retailer with 103 U.S. stores is in advanced discussion with lenders under its current term loan credit agreement to provide additional capital to support the company in its long-term growth. But the company doesn't expect its agreement announced last month, that's when we talked about it, with Beyond, the owner of Bed Bath & Beyond and other brands. It doesn't believe that agreement will be consummated on the previous disclosed terms. Quote, Beyond has concerns regarding the Container Store's ability to reach agreement with lenders on terms that would satisfy the financing requirements under the purchase agreement. Beyond's executive chairman, Marcus Lemonis, who is a bit of a television star as well, you may recognize that name, said, while we continue to believe in the Container Store's brand and business fundamentals, the proposed financing terms we have reviewed to date fall short of what we believe is necessary to complete the transaction. If the retailer is unable to obtain what Beyond calls commercially acceptable financing, as set forth in the purchase agreement by January 31st, either party may terminate the agreement. So the clock is ticking. It's a terrible time of year to be working on this stuff. So many people are just coasting through December, as I'm seeing in our commercial real estate business. Very few people want to work hard in December or, put any type of new project on their plate. They're trying to coast through with as little stress and work as possible. So it's a terrible time to be working on something like this. Beyond's disclosure to investors shows a vote of no confidence in the Container Store's business, taking away what was once a lifeline for the struggling retailer that has mounting losses totaling nearly $31 million to date. So they've lost $31 million to date this year. The current trajectory of the Container Store is very difficult. The company is still burning through cash with negative cash flow and consistent losses. Negative cash flow is very, very difficult to turn around, especially if you can't get a loan to pull you through. So the Beyond deal with the Container Store, very much in jeopardy. You may see the Container Store closing stores next year, cutting jobs next year, trying to stop the hemorrhaging. So we'll keep you posted on that. Very interesting structure to that deal with Beyond. And if there's an additional update there in future weeks, we'll certainly share it with you. Very quickly, we're going to talk about the Dolly Parton Hotel update. The country music superstar is preparing to convert her downtown office building located at 211 Commerce Street into the Songteller Hotel. The 12-story hotel will include 3 public space levels on floors 1, 2, and 11. So 12 stories, 3 public levels, 1, 2, and 11. The first level will offer a greeter lobby for guests, and the second level will include a hotel lobby, entertainment dining venue, kitchen, and 4 guest rooms. A dining and bar venue will be held on the 11th floor. Remember, Parton paid $75 million for the 211 Commerce office building, is now undergoing a $45 million renovation. The Songteller Hotel will also include a museum filled with Parton's fashion pieces and artifacts from her career. So what makes this interesting is this was a viable office building. This is a beautiful office building, fairly new, 12-story, well located, purchased for $75 million just to be gutted in a $45 million investment made to become a Dolly Parton hotel, which I'm sure will do very well. I'm sure it will be very cool, and you do have the opportunity, without having to stay at the hotel, to go there and experience the dining, the entertainment, the museum. Very cool project to keep an eye on. Let's keep moving. Party Fowl, right? Fowl spelled Fowl, not foul like you would normally use that expression, right? It's a play on words. It's fallen on some hard times. Raleigh-based Cherry Bounce Hospitality has acquired Party Fowl following the hot chicken brand's year of restructuring. In January, the 10-year-old Nashville brand filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, citing expansion beyond Music City and COVID-19 pressures. Party Fowl was founded in 2014. It has 3 existing locations in the Gulch, Donaldson, and a licensed spot at Nashville International Airport. The Cool Springs location, the one I'm most familiar with, closed. Destin, Florida closed. Murfreesboro closed. And Chattanooga closed earlier this year. Cherry Bounce Hospitality plans to add menu items, enhance lunch offerings, and introduce new slushies. At least 2 restaurants will open in 25, but those locations have not been announced quite yet. Cherry Bounce's portfolio includes Cajun Steamer Bar and Grill, Trudy's Tex-Mex, Tower 7, and K38 Baja Grill. Those are quite the names. Add Party Fowl to those list of brands. I hope it can stay in business. I enjoyed it the few times that we ate there. You know, those strong flavors aren't necessarily the favorite of my children, so we didn't get there too often. Family of 6, everybody's got to eat when we go out. So we've got to choose those spots that work for everyone. I'm sure all moms and dads out there can understand. But I always thought it was an interesting business, a well-run business. I hope they can make it work. Next, Jersey Mike's subs to be sold. And Subway is one of those brands that I've always followed. I've got some friends that own Subways. I've got some clients that own Subways. So I've had my eye on Subway for a long time, just trying to understand that business. I've always thought Subway was on a downward trend, slow to evolve, slow to pivot. So let's compare and contrast the price paid for Jersey Mike's subs and the price recently paid for Subway. Blackstone looks to buy a majority stake in Jersey Mike's subs for a reported $8 billion. Jersey Mike's, the fast casual chain that touts its freshly prepared submarine sandwiches, is the second biggest U.S. sandwich chain behind, of course, Subway. It is a national franchisor with more than 3,000 locations open and in development. Keep in mind, a few months ago, Rourke Capital completed its $9.6 billion acquisition of Subway, the largest sandwich chain with about 37,000 restaurants. Also, in 2019, Inspire Brands purchased Jimmy John's Sandwiches, another leader in the sandwich shop dining sector. Now let's compare this. So 37,000 Subways sold for $9.6 billion, and 3,000 Jersey Mike's sold for $8 billion. That tells you how much growth potential Jersey Mike's has and how little growth potential Subway has. In April, the firm announced it was also acquiring the Tropical Smoothie Cafe chain for a reported $2 million. So the group that's buying Jersey Mike's, Blackstone, has also recently acquired Tropical Smoothie Cafe. So they should know what they're doing. They believe they can take it from roughly 3,000 restaurants to 4,000 in the U.S. I thought, wow, that's good growth, but that's nowhere near the 37,000 locations of Subways. So they actually have, I would say, pretty reasonable expectations about what they're going to do here. So they're going from 3,000 to 4,000 restaurants and are paying $8 billion for the right to do so. Through Though the restaurant industry has had its setbacks this year, much of which we've updated you on this podcast, companies like Wingstop, Chipotle, and Jersey Mike's have seen success. So not all restaurants have struggled, but most certainly have struggled. And one of the few that isn't struggling, Jersey Mike's, is getting a huge capital infusion and a very experienced operator behind it. You are going to see more and more Jersey Mike's subs popping up. If you ask me, what am I doing? If I got Subway, Jersey Mike's, and Jimmy John's, it's my options. Where am I going? I'm going Jimmy John's. That's just me. But I'm going to throw you a curveball here. If you give me Jimmy John's or Potbelly subs as an option, I'm going Potbellies all day. We don't have a whole lot of Potbellies in Nashville. I'm not sure why that is. I think they do really well. But coming from the Midwest, which I think is the origin of Potbellies, I will tell you it's doing very well. I'm going to give you another idea. If you're someone that is crazy enough to own a restaurant, all right, first, go for Potbellies. If you can't get Potbellies, I'm going to give you another one, Rosati's Pizza. Rosati's Pizza dominates the Chicago area, many areas in the Midwest. We don't have Rosati's Pizza here for some reason. You could bring Rosati's Pizza to Nashville and get rich. So Potbellies and Rosati's, there's a big opportunity in this marketplace. If you like that idea, go ahead and run with it. Let me know. I'll be a customer. I have no interest in being in the food and beverage business. All right, I'm going to give you a quick Nashville housing market update. Again, this is not my business. I'm not going to pretend that it is. I'm going to give you just the basics so you can understand this. I think a lot of times this gets overcomplicated and it's difficult to understand exactly what's going on. There were 2,567 closings in the month of November in Metro Nashville. That is a 7% increase from this time last year. So more deals are closing this year than deals were closing last year at this time. With pending sales up, so this is another measurement, right? Pending sales are deals that are in contract but have yet to close. Pending sales are also up 13% compared to last year. So closed sales up 7%, pending sales, which are just soon to close sales, up 13%. Buyers have more options while sellers continue to see strong median home prices at $500,000 for single-family homes. So the median, which approximates the average, right, without taking out, the median is more accurate if you've got most of the homes in Nashville around $500,000, but then one sells for $50 million. That skews the average, right? So that's why we use the median, which is if you would line all those numbers up and choose the middle number, that's the median. Homes sold in November had been on the market for an average of 49 days. That is a short time on market. You know, I don't know exactly how long it takes to close a residential transaction, but I imagine it's about 30 days, best case scenario. Not best case, average. That means these properties are getting accepted offers within the first 1 or 2 weeks that they're put on the market, which also speaks to the strength of the market. The median price for a single-family home is now an even $500,000, and for a condominium, it's now an even $350,000. Those numbers a year ago were $470,000, so single-family homes have gone up $30,000 on average over the last year, and the condos were about $48,000, right? So they've only gone up $2,000. So single-family homes have appreciated more than condos. And for those folks that thought that the housing prices at some point were going to go down, I hate to tell you, they're not going to go down. At some point, you got to figure out how to get in because they're only going to go up. You know, there is so much demand to live in Nashville, and we can all understand why, right? What a wonderful place to live. As jobs come, as people move in, as the interest in Nashville grows, housing is sure to go up in value. We can't build houses fast enough. So as demand outstrips supply, prices go up. Don't expect the housing prices in our area to go down anytime soon. For a pre-pandemic comparison, the 2019 median price of a single-family home was $322,000. Pre-pandemic, the average sale $322,000. Now it's $500,000. A condo back then $243,000. Now we're up to $350,000. So goodness gracious, you better hope you got in before the pandemic. Now there's also more to choose from, right? So active listings on the market is also up 13%. So you got more deals closing, you got more deals soon to close, you got more property on the market, and you've got pricing going up. I would say that makes for a very healthy residential housing market. So everything we've got going for us in Nashville is going very, very well. We're kind of living in this bubble, this insulated bubble where we've got growth. And anytime you have growth, it's easier to make money. Growth is the number one measure of any marketplace. Is it growing? If it's growing, get in, get your little slice of the pie, and watch it grow with the rest of us. We've got 2 stories left. A Florida condo builds solar into its windows. Right? I don't know about you. I hadn't heard about this before. I track the Florida market. We do work in Florida. I also personally just like Florida. One day I imagine we'll have a beach house in Florida when I have the free time to actually use it. A Miami residential high-rise. Developer YTech has started construction on its 860-foot tall tower, set to feature sun-absorbing technology that the builder is touting as a groundbreaking residential building partially powered by solar energy, called the Residences at 1428 Brickell, which is in the heart of Miami's financial district. This property is designed to have photovoltaic glass on one side, generating up to 175 megawatts of clean energy annually. The tower is the latest in a growing list of ultra-luxury condominiums climbing up the Miami skyline. The Residences at 1428 Brickell is set to feature 195 units when it opens in 2028. Keep in mind, this is a 70-story, 860-foot tower that only has 195 units in it. How does that work? Well, let me tell you how that works. Every one of those units is very expensive. Each residence comes fully furnished and ranges from 2 to 4 bedrooms, which is unusual for condos. Most condos top out at 3 bedrooms, but 95% of them are 2 bedrooms or less, spanning 1,800 square feet up to 4,000 square feet for a standard unit. The penthouses range from 4,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet. Get this, prices for standard units range from $3 million to $7 million, while the cheapest available penthouse starts at $8 million and goes up to $60 million. 500 photovoltaic, I'm not saying that right, I apologize, integrated windows on the western facade. Residents' views of Biscayne Bay facing east are to remain unobstructed. So while we want solar energy, we can't ruin the view to get it. The developer did not receive any tax incentives for the inclusion. The solar cells are to be directly integrated into the tower's glass, making their lifespan the same as the window itself as they blend into the rest of the tower's architecture. The condominium was designed to maximize holistic wellness, environmental consideration, and well-being. The tower is expected to include over 80,000 square feet of indoor and outdoor amenities, including 3 pools, a 10,000 square foot gym and weight room, a 2-story wine and fine art lounge, high-end office suites, and a private dining room equipped with a Vasali kitchen, a one-of-a-kind offering from the Italian design studio. So they do it big in Miami, man. I'm telling you. They spend real money in Miami, and the folks that are trying to move to Miami have real money. And if you want to live in a condo, but you also have a family, there are really very few options to choose from So this development is really trying to appeal to the affluent family that wants that downtown Miami lifestyle, but has enough room for their family to spread out. If you've got 3 to 7 million, this is a good option for you, and you can feel good about the clean energy that your windows are absorbing. I just had never heard that before. I thought that was worth sharing. And lastly, real quick, Walgreens may sell itself to a private firm. Walgreens was reportedly in negotiations to sell itself to private equity firm Sycamore Partners. They've been discussing a deal that could conclude early next year. Walgreens market value, get this, this is the most interesting part of the story. Walgreens market value is now around $7.5 billion after peaking at more than $100 billion in 2015. Less than 10 years ago, Walgreens was worth $100 billion, down to $7.5 billion today. Just having gone through a pandemic, better known as a scamdemic, where they forced a pharmaceutical product on almost everyone, right? So they forced people into pharmacies, right? And they still continue to lose money. I will tell you, I hate going to Walgreens. Walgreens is our pharmacy. We don't have to go there very often. I loathe going there. It is a terrible experience. Nothing is ever fast. Nothing is ever ready. It's always a negative experience. And I would suggest if you want to turn that business around, maybe we should find a way to make it a more positive experience for consumers. But what do I know? Walgreens and its rivals such as CVS and Rite Aid have struggled in a competitive environment amid sales and profit slumps in the past year. Walgreens operates more than 12,500 stores worldwide, including the Boots drugstore chain, but its stock price has been in decline for much of the past decade. Walgreens' longtime challenges and limited prospects for immediate improvement. They're so this private equity group, Sycamore, is being called in to run a more disciplined operation. They would also have the possibility of selling off parts of the business, such as Boots, to maximize their return. So Walgreens, often thought for many years as the blue chip user of commercial real estate upon which all other users were compared, right, has had a substantial fall from grace and now is going to need to be bailed out from the private equity group. So you're seeing a lot of private equity action in our country right now, whereby they're going in and they're solving problems for these companies that are losing market share, that are losing money, but they're also choosing groups like Jersey Mike's who just need that capital to grow their successful business. So there's a lot of very interesting business stories out there right now, and I try to share some of them with you today. So that rounds out today's podcast. I appreciate you all tuning in. As always, this episode is brought to you by Beechwood Commercial Real Estate Brokerage. If you are an owner of commercial real estate who's considering selling in 2025, please reach out to us. We'll provide you with all the information you need to make an educated decision. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next week.